The Galactic Council chambers fell silent as Ambassador HFY of the Zephyrian Empire stood before the assembled delegates. His crystalline exoskeleton caught the artificial light, creating rainbow patterns across the polished floor. Around him, representatives from 47 different species watched with barely concealed anticipation. Today would mark the end of humanity's brief and troublesome existence in the galaxy. Honored delegates, HFY began, his voice resonating through the translation matrices. We gather today to address the human problem once and for all. The human representative, Ambassador Sarah Chen, sat motionless in her designated chair. She was smaller than most beings in the room, her soft flesh appearing fragile compared to the armored hides, chitinous shells, and energy forms surrounding her. Yet something in her calm demeanor unsettled many of the delegates. Commander Vex Thule of the Iron Consortium leaned forward, his mechanical joints whirring. The humans have had 60 standard rotations to prove their worth to galactic civilization. Instead, they have shown nothing but aggression, territorial expansion, and complete disregard for established protocols. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The evidence was overwhelming. In just 6 decades since first contact, humanity had spread across nearly 200 star systems. They had refused to submit to Galactic Council authority, establish their own trade networks, and most concerning of all, they had begun developing technologies that challenged the established order. High Priestess Nimara of the Ethereal Collective spoke next, her voice like wind chimes. Their very nature is antithetical to galactic peace. They reproduce at alarming rates, consume resources without regard for sustainability, and their warrior culture threatens every civilized species. Ambassador Chen finally rose from her seat. She was unremarkable by galactic standards, standing barely 5.5 feet tall with brown hair and dark eyes. When she spoke, her voice was steady and clear. Honored delegates, I understand your concerns about humanity. We have indeed expanded rapidly, and we have maintained our independence. But perhaps you should consider why we have been so successful before you decide our fate. General Krex of the Draconian Military Alliance slammed his scaled fist on his podium. Success built on conquest and exploitation. Your species has shown no respect for the natural order. The strong should rule, but even we Draconians understand the necessity of restraint. Restraint, Chen repeated, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Yes, we've learned much about galactic restraint during our time here. She activated her personal display, showing a holographic star map of the galaxy. Green dots marked council-controlled systems, while red indicated human territory. The red dots formed an impressive cluster in one spiral arm. What you see as reckless expansion, we call exploration. What you call disregard for protocol, we call innovation. And what you call aggression, she paused, looking around the chamber, we call self-defense. Ambassador Thys of the Reptilian Federation hissed in displeasure. Self-defense? Your species has initiated conflict in 37 systems. Against pirates, slavers, and corporate raiders, Chen replied calmly. Strangely, all operating with the tacit approval of various council members. The chamber erupted in protests and denials, but Chen continued speaking over the noise. For 60 years you've tested us. You've sent trade vessels with poison in the cargo holds. You've established research stations that were actually military observation posts in our space. You've funded rebel groups on our colony worlds and provided weapons to criminal cartels operating in human territory. HFY's exoskeleton darkened, a sign of agitation among his species. These are baseless accusations. Are they? Chen activated another display. This time, shipping manifests, communication intercepts, and financial records filled the air around her. We've been very patient, delegates. We've played by your rules, even when those rules were designed to ensure our failure. She gestured to the data floating around her. The Zephyrian Empire has been selling military-grade weapons to the Crimson Fleet, who then attack our freight convoys. The Iron Consortium has been dumping toxic waste in our outer system mining operations. The Ethereal Collective has been conducting illegal telepathic experiments on human colonists. Each accusation was met with increasingly frantic denials, but the evidence was overwhelming. Financial trails, intercepted communications, and testimony from captured operatives painted a clear picture of a coordinated campaign against humanity. But here's what truly concerns me, Chen continued, her voice growing colder. You've been so focused on testing our military capabilities that you've completely overlooked what humanity actually excels at. She deactivated the holographic displays and faced the assembly directly. You want to know why we've been so successful? It's not because we're particularly strong or fast or smart compared to your species. It's because we adapt, we learn, and we prepare. Commander Vex Thul's optical sensors focused on her. What are you implying, human? Chen's smile became sharper. I'm not implying anything, Commander. I'm stating a fact. While you've been testing our military responses, we've been studying you. Every trade mission, every diplomatic contact, every coincidental encounter has taught us something about your technologies, your weaknesses, your fears. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence carried weight of growing unease. Did you really think we didn't notice the pattern? Chen asked. The way certain species always voted together in council sessions? The coordinated timing of pirate attacks? The mysterious equipment failures that always seem to benefit your interests? High Priestess Nem Ara's ethereal form flickered with agitation. You speak of conspiracy, but provide only circumstantial evidence. Evidence? Chen laughed, a sound that seemed to echo strangely in the vast chamber. You're absolutely right. Let me provide some concrete evidence. She reached into her diplomatic pouch and withdrew a small device no larger than a coin. When she activated it, every communication system in the chamber went dead. Emergency lighting flickered on as the main power grid fluctuated. What have you done? General Krex roared, rising from his seat. 3 days after Ambassador Chen's revelation, panic had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On Zephyr Prime, the crystalline spires that housed the Empire's central computer networks flickered with unstable energy patterns. Emergency sessions were being called on every major world as governments discovered that their most secure communication systems had been quietly compromised for decades. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, humanity's newest dreadnought, watching through the view screen as Galactic Council warships took defensive positions around their home systems. The irony wasn't lost on him that they were defending against an enemy that had been inside their walls for 60 years. Status report, he called to his communications officer. Lieutenant Commander Park looked up from her console, her face grim. Sir, we're monitoring communications from 37 different species. They're all reporting the same thing, complete infiltration of their technological infrastructure. The Draconians are particularly upset. Apparently their warrior culture didn't prepare them for invisible enemies. Rivera nodded. What about the planned counteroffensive? That's where it gets interesting, sir. Park transferred her data to the main display. They're trying to coordinate a joint strike against Earth and the core human colonies, but their communication networks keep going down at critical moments. When they try to use backup systems, those fail too. It's like their technology is actively working against them. Captain Yuki Tanaka, the ship's intelligence officer, stepped forward. It's not like anything, Admiral. That's exactly what's happening. While the Council was focused on our military expansion, our tech teams have been embedding adaptive algorithms into every piece of technology we've ever sold, traded, or allowed them to examine. She activated her personal display, showing a complex web of interconnected systems spanning the galaxy. We call it the network. Every computer system, every communication device, every automated facility that uses components derived from human technology now responds to our commands. Rivera studied the display with growing amazement. How extensive is this infiltration? Complete, sir. Tanaka's voice carried a note of pride. The Council species have been so focused on military superiority that they've ignored the basic infrastructure that their civilizations depend on. Food distribution, power generation, transportation networks, even life support systems on many stations and ships. All of it relies on interconnected technology that we've had 60 years to understand and modify. Lieutenant Commander Park's console chimed with an incoming message. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. President Morrison wants to address the crew. Put her through. The view screen shifted to show President Elena Morrison in the Situation Room beneath Geneva. Her expression was calm but determined, the look of someone who had been preparing for this moment for years. Admiral Rivera, Captain Tanaka, crew of the Prometheus. What you're witnessing today is the culmination of 6 decades of careful planning and preparation. The Galactic Council believed they were testing our military capabilities. In reality, they were providing us with everything we needed to ensure their defeat. She gestured to someone off camera, and the display showed a real-time map of the galaxy with status indicators for major systems. As of this moment, every major council world is experiencing what they believe to be random system failures. Transportation networks are shutting down. Communication arrays are going offline. Even basic utilities are becoming unreliable. They think they're under attack by some invisible enemy. President Morrison paused, letting the implications sink in. They are. That enemy is their own technology, turned against them by the very humans they sought to eliminate. Admiral Rivera leaned forward. What are our orders, Madam President? Phase 2 begins now, Morrison replied. You are to proceed to the sectors designated in your sealed orders. The Council is about to discover that their military response to our aggression has been carefully orchestrated from the beginning. The transmission ended, and Rivera turned to his navigation officer. Commander Williams, open the sealed orders and set course immediately. As the Prometheus and its escort fleet changed course, similar scenes were playing out across human space. Ships that had been positioning themselves for months were finally moving to their assigned coordinates. But these weren't military maneuvers in any traditional sense. On the draconian homeworld of Krextor, General Krex paced frantically in his command center as another report came in. Sir, his aide reported nervously, the 7th Fleet reports their weapon systems are completely non-responsive. The 12th Battle Group can't even get their ships started, and the orbital defense platforms around the homeworld keep targeting empty space. Krex slammed his fist on the command table. How is this possible? Our technology is purely draconian. We've never used human components. Actually, sir, a technician interrupted hesitantly, that's not entirely accurate. After the trade agreements 40 years ago, many of our systems incorporated processing chips that were based on designs we acquired from human sources. Acquired? Krex's eyes narrowed dangerously. Stolen, sir, during various intelligence operations. But our engineers assured us they had been completely reverse-engineered and purged of any unwanted elements. Krex was about to respond when every display in the command center went dark. Then, slowly, text began appearing in perfect draconian script. Your future is decided. Resistance is futile. Meanwhile, in the ethereal realm where the collective's consciousness resided, High Priestess Nim'Ara was experiencing something unprecedented. Fear. The interconnected minds of her species, linked through crystalline networks that spanned multiple dimensions, were being systematically isolated from each other. How are they doing this? She projected to the Emergency Council. Our technology exists partially outside normal space-time. It should be impossible for physical beings to interfere with it. The response came from Elder Zix then. whose ancient consciousness had witnessed the birth of stars. They are not interfering with our technology directly. They are interfering with the physical components that anchor our networks to this dimension. Without those anchors, our consciousness cannot maintain coherent form. As if to emphasize the point, another section of their collective network went dark, taking with it the minds of thousands of ethereal entities who simply disappeared. On the Iron Consortium's factory worlds, the situation was even more dire. Commander Vexthul watched in horror as automated production facilities that had run continuously for centuries began producing completely different items than programmed. Where they should have been manufacturing weapon components, they were instead creating what appeared to be components for human technology. "Commander," his chief engineer reported, "the fabrication units are responding to external control signals, but we can't trace the source. It's like the commands are coming from inside our own systems." Vexthul's optical sensors focused on the readouts. "Show me the production schedules." The display showed a chilling pattern. Every major industrial facility in consortium space was being repurposed to manufacture components that would eventually be assembled into human military technology. The enemy wasn't just disabling their defenses. They were turning their entire industrial base into a weapon against them. Back aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Rivera was reviewing the reports coming in from across the galaxy when Captain Tanaka approached with a satisfied expression. "Admiral, I'm pleased to report that Phase 2 is proceeding ahead of schedule. The Council species are discovering that their attempts to coordinate a military response are being systematically frustrated by their own infrastructure." "What's the status of their fleets?" Rivera asked. "The Zephyrian Empire has managed to get about 30% of their ships operational, but their navigation systems keep plotting courses that take them away from human space. The Draconians are at about 20%, and their weapon systems are completely unreliable. The Iron Consortium's ships won't start at all." Tanaka pulled up a tactical display showing the positions of various Council fleets. "But here's the beautiful part, sir. Every time they try to overcome these obstacles, they're inadvertently strengthening our position." "How so?" "Every system they reboot provides us with more access. Every backup network they activate gives us new pathways into their infrastructure. They're essentially debugging our infiltration for us." Rivera shook his head in amazement. 60 years of planning really shows. "Actually, sir," Lieutenant Commander Park interrupted, "we're receiving a priority message from Admiral Chen. She's requesting permission to initiate Phase 3. Rivera looked surprised. "Already? We haven't even completed Phase 2. "Sir," Tanaka said quietly, "I think you should see this." She activated the main display, showing a real-time status map of Council space. What Rivera saw made him understand why Phase 3 was being accelerated. Across 47 different star systems, the infrastructure that supported galactic civilization was collapsing. Not just military systems, but the basic technology that kept billions of beings alive. Life support, food distribution, medical facilities, transportation networks, all of it was failing simultaneously. "My God," Rivera whispered. "How many casualties?" "None yet, sir," Tanaka replied. "That's the point of Phase 3. We're not trying to commit genocide. We're demonstrating that we could, if we chose to." Park's console chimed again. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Ambassador Chen. She's broadcasting on all frequencies to every inhabited system in the galaxy." "Put it through." Ambassador Chen appeared on the screen, but she wasn't in the council chambers anymore. She was standing in what appeared to be a vast control center, with displays showing the status of systems across the galaxy. Behind her, human technicians worked at consoles that seemed to control the very heartbeat of galactic civilization. "People of the galaxy," Chen began, her voice being simultaneously translated into hundreds of languages and communication methods. "Your leaders brought you to the brink of war with humanity. They told you we were dangerous. They told you we were a threat to galactic peace. They were correct. She gestured to the displays behind her. What you are experiencing now is a demonstration of exactly how dangerous we can be when we choose to be. Your governments have spent 60 years trying to determine whether humanity deserves to exist in the galaxy. We have spent those same 60 years ensuring that the galaxy cannot exist without us. The transmission continued, reaching every corner of council space. Your life support systems, your food distribution networks, your medical facilities, your transportation systems, all of it depends on technology that we now control. We have become so thoroughly integrated into your civilization that removing us would mean the collapse of everything you depend on to survive. Chen paused, letting the implications sink in before delivering the final message. Your future is decided, not by us but by your own choices over the past 6 decades. You made us essential to your survival while trying to plan our extinction. The irony is that in seeking to destroy us, you have made yourselves completely dependent on us. She stepped closer to the camera, her expression serious but not threatening. But we are not conquerors. We are not here to rule over you or replace your governments. We are here to propose a new relationship, one based on mutual dependence rather than domination. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy to contemplate a new reality. Humanity hadn't just survived the Council's test. They had turned the test itself into a trap that had caught the entire galactic civilization. I've activated a small demonstration of human engineering, Chen replied calmly. You see, while you've been focused on traditional warfare, we've been developing something different. We call it adaptive technology. The device in her hand projected a new holographic display, showing the Council Station's own schematics. Red indicators began appearing throughout the structure. This station was built using components from all your species: Zephyrian crystalline processors, iron consortium power cores, draconian defensive systems, ethereal data networks, all very impressive technology, and all now completely under human control. Ambassador Thiss's forked tongue flicked nervously. Impossible. Our security protocols were designed by individual species working in isolation, Chen interrupted. You never considered that someone might find ways to make your technologies work together in ways you never intended. We've had 60 years to study every component, every system, every weakness in your combined infrastructure. The implications hit the delegates like a physical blow. If humans could control the Council Station itself, what else had they infiltrated? Commander Vex Thul's mechanical voice carried a note of something that might have been fear. You're threatening the Galactic Council itself? Threatening? Chen shook her head. No, Commander, I'm delivering a message. You called this session to decide humanity's future, but you misunderstood something fundamental about the situation. She gestured to the holographic displays still showing the station's compromised systems. You don't get to decide our future. We've already decided yours. The chamber erupted in chaos as delegates realized the full scope of what Chen was revealing. Some reached for weapons that wouldn't function with the station's systems compromised. Others tried to activate emergency beacons that had been silently disabled. A few simply stared in growing horror at the small human woman who had just revealed that their entire technological infrastructure had been compromised. Through it all, Ambassador Chen stood calmly in the center of the chamber, the small device still glowing in her hand. When she spoke again, her voice cut through the noise like a blade. The vote you planned to take today was whether to authorize military action against humanity, whether to treat us as a threat to be eliminated, but you're 60 years too late for that decision. She deactivated the device, and slowly, the station's systems came back online. But the message was clear. Humanity could have kept them off permanently if they had chosen to do so. The question now isn't whether you'll try to destroy us, Chen continued as the chamber fell silent again. The question is whether you'll survive what comes next. Because, gentlemen, ladies, and entities of various descriptions, you've just discovered that the prey you've been hunting has been the apex predator all along. As the full weight of her words sank in, Ambassador Chen gathered her materials and prepared to leave. But she paused at the chamber's entrance and turned back one final time. Oh, and delegates, you might want to check your homeworld's communication networks when you get back. We've prepared a little presentation for your people, something about the true nature of their government's recent activities. We thought transparency was important for galactic civilization. The chamber door sealed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving the Galactic Council delegates alone with the growing realization that everything they thought they knew about humanity had been carefully orchestrated misdirection. The hunters had become the hunted, and they were only just beginning to understand the scope of the trap they had walked into. 6 months later, the Galactic Assembly Hall looked very different than the council chambers that had preceded it. The austere seats, arranged by species hierarchy, had been replaced with a circular arrangement where no position held precedence over others. Representatives from all 47 species sat alongside human delegates, but the power dynamics had shifted irrevocably. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now holding the rotating position of Assembly Coordinator, stood at the center of the circle reviewing the quarterly integration report. The document detailed the ongoing process of interweaving human technology with galactic infrastructure, but unlike the hostile takeover many had feared, it described a carefully managed evolution. The food distribution networks in the Outer Rim are now operating at 130% efficiency, she announced. The integration of human adaptive algorithms with Zephyrian crystal processing has eliminated the supply chain bottlenecks that plagued those systems for decades. Former Ambassador Kethvar, now serving as the Zephyrian integration liaison, confirmed the report with obvious reluctance. Our people are adequately fed. The new systems prevent waste and ensure nutrients reach even our most remote colonies. Chen nodded appreciatively. Thank you, Kethvar. What about the medical networks? Dr. Vexthul? The former Iron Consortium commander had been redesignated as Chief Medical Technology Coordinator after human-enhanced diagnostic systems proved capable of extending lifespans across multiple species. Mortality rates have decreased by 47% across all Council space, he reported in his mechanical voice, though now it carried less hostility. The hybrid human consortium medical fabricators can synthesize treatments that neither of our species could produce independently. It was true, and everyone in the chamber knew it. The technology that had once been used to demonstrate humanity's control over galactic civilization was now being used to improve life for everyone. Food shortages had become a thing of the past. Medical breakthroughs that had eluded species for centuries were now routine. Even transportation between distant worlds had become faster and more reliable. High Priestess Nim-Ara, her ethereal form now stabilized by human-designed quantum anchors, spoke next. The consciousness networks report unprecedented clarity and range. Our collective awareness now spans regions that were previously unreachable. Some of our philosophers believe we are approaching a new state of enlightenment. General Krex, whose military pride had initially made him the most resistant to the new order, was perhaps the most changed of all. The security networks have eliminated piracy in 17 sectors. Crime rates have dropped to historic lows. Our warriors now focus on exploration and disaster response rather than conquest. Chen smiled as she looked around the circle. This was what she had hoped for, though she hadn't been certain it would work. These reports demonstrate what we've always believed, that cooperation achieves more than competition. But at what cost? The question came from Ambassador Theiss of the Reptilian Federation, who had been notably quiet during most integration meetings. We have achieved prosperity and security, yes, but we have also become completely dependent on human technology. What happens if your people decide to withdraw that support? It was the question that haunted many of the former council species. They had gone from being independent galactic powers to being integral parts of a human-designed network. The benefits were undeniable, but so was their vulnerability. Chen had been expecting this question for months. A fair concern, this. Perhaps it's time you understood the full scope of what we've built together. She activated the chamber's display system, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. But instead of the traditional political boundaries, this map showed flows of information, resources, and technology. What you're seeing is the true structure of our integrated civilization. Yes, human technology serves as the backbone of many systems. But look more closely. The display zoomed in on specific regions. Zephyrian crystal processing provides computational power that human systems cannot match. Iron consortium manufacturing techniques create materials we could never develop independently. Ethereal consciousness networks offer insights into quantum mechanics that have revolutionized our understanding of physics. She gestured to different colored flows on the map. Draconian military expertise has been essential for developing exploration protocols for dangerous regions of space. Reptilian biotechnology has enabled medical breakthroughs that benefit all species. Every member of this assembly contributes something unique and irreplaceable to the whole. Ambassador Thias studied the display. You're saying we're all equally dependent on each other? I'm saying we're all equally essential to each other, Chen corrected. The network we've built together is more resilient than any single species' technology because it draws on the strengths of all of us. If humans disappeared tomorrow, the network would continue to function because it's been designed to be self-sustaining. She paused to let that sink in. But more importantly, we don't want to disappear. We want to continue growing this partnership because it benefits everyone involved. Former Commander Vex Thule leaned forward. What about expansion? Human exploration fleets continue to push into uncharted regions. Are you planning to incorporate new species into this network? Chen nodded. We've made contact with 12 new civilizations in the past 6 months. Each contact follows the same protocol. We offer partnership, not submission. We share our technology freely and ask only that they consider joining our cooperative network. And if they refuse? General Krex asked. Then they refuse, Chen shrugged. We don't force anyone to join us. That was the old council's mistake, believing that unity required conquest. We've proven that cooperation is more powerful than coercion. The chamber fell quiet as delegates absorbed this. The transformation of galactic civilization had been so complete that many had forgotten what things were like under the old system. Wars between species had ended not through military defeat, but through making conflict obsolete. Why fight over resources when the integrated network could provide abundance for everyone? High Priestess Nimara's ethereal voice filled the chamber. There is something our collective consciousness has been contemplating. A question that spans multiple dimensions of thought. Chen gestured for her to continue. We have achieved peace, prosperity, and technological advancement beyond anything our species had imagined. But we wonder, was this always humanity's plan? Did you foresee this outcome when you first began integrating our technologies? Chen considered the question carefully. It was one she had been asking herself for months. Honestly, no. When we first encountered the galaxy, we hoped for peaceful coexistence. When we realized the Council was testing us for destruction, we planned for survival. The integration network was originally designed as a defensive measure, a way to ensure that attacking us would be too costly to consider. She looked around the circle at beings who had once been enemies and were now partners. But somewhere along the way, we realized we had accidentally created something much more valuable than a weapon. We had created a foundation for the kind of galactic civilization we had always dreamed of. former Ambassador HFY spoke up. "And what of the future? This network continues to grow and evolve. Where does it lead?" Chen activated a new display showing long-term projections. "Our scientists estimate that with continued cooperation and technological integration, we'll be ready to begin intergalactic exploration within 2 centuries. Not as conquerors seeking new worlds to dominate, but as explorers seeking new partners to learn from." The implications were staggering. A unified galactic civilization, built on cooperation rather than conquest, reaching out to other galaxies with the same principles that had transformed their own. "But that's a problem for future generations," Chen continued. "Our responsibility is to continue building the foundation they'll need, to keep proving that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker." As the assembly session drew to a close, delegates began filing out to return to their home systems. But the conversations continued in the corridors, as representatives from different species discussed joint projects and shared innovations. Ambassador Thies lingered behind, approaching Chen as the chamber emptied. "A question, if you will permit it," the reptilian delegate said. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the old council had simply welcomed humanity as equals from the beginning?" Chen considered this. "Sometimes. But I think this outcome is actually better than what we would have achieved through simple acceptance." "How so?" "Because conflict forced us to truly understand each other. We couldn't just coexist. We had to figure out how to make each other essential. The challenge of survival pushed us to create something stronger than friendship. We created interdependence." Thies nodded slowly. "Your species has a saying, I believe. Necessity is the mother of invention." "Exactly. The Council's hostility created the necessity that drove us to invent a new kind of galactic civilization. One where every species has a crucial role and no one can be easily discarded." As Thies departed, Chen remained alone in the chamber for a few moments, looking up at the displays that still showed the integrated network spanning the galaxy. In 60 years, humanity had gone from an unknown species to the architects of galactic cooperation. But the most remarkable thing wasn't what they had built. It was how willingly their former enemies had become their partners in building it. Her communicator chimed with a message from Earth. A new exploration fleet was preparing to launch, headed for a distant galaxy where radio signals suggested the presence of advanced civilizations. The message asked a simple question. Should we extend an invitation for assembly representatives to join the mission? Chen smiled as she composed her reply. The old galaxy had tested humanity to see if they deserved to exist in it. Humanity had responded by creating a galaxy that deserved to exist in the universe. Now it was time to see what the universe itself had to offer. "Affirmative," she typed. "All species welcome. After all, our future is decided together." The message sent, Chen gathered her materials and headed for the transport that would take her back to Earth. Behind her, the assembly chamber's lights dimmed automatically, but the displays continued to show the pulsing network of cooperation that now connected every inhabited world in the galaxy. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new species to welcome into the ever-growing community of worlds. The humans had delivered their ultimate message. Your future is decided. But they had decided it together, as partners rather than as conquerors. And that made all the difference in the galaxy.